Okay, let's unpack this. Air Day. Welcome to a deep dive into, well, a really fascinating business story.
Mhm.
We're looking at how a major platform, Shopify, didn't just stumble into success. It seems they really used market research to anticipate and then actually build the infrastructure for this huge shift we now call direct-to-consumer, or DTC.
Right, they were proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly. And we're pulling insights today from an article that really digs into their strategic thinking.
Yeah, it lays it out pretty clearly.
So our mission here is to uncover those specific findings from their early research, and trace how those insights directly help shape Shopify into the platform. It is today really the backbone for so much modern DTC retail.
It's a great case study.
Definitely. Whether you're, building something yourself, or you're just fascinated by how these big market shifts happen, or maybe you just love seeing how companies kind of nail it. Understanding this journey, I think, offers some genuine aha moments. It's all about the power of looking ahead.
It really is. What's fascinating, I think, is how understanding these subtle shifts in human behavior and in technology allowed one company to essentially build the future of retail before others even really saw it coming.
Totally. Okay, so to really grasp the scale of what they built, let's set the scene first. What did the world of selling online actually look like before this DTC boom properly took off, say, early 2010s?
Well, think about it. The e-commerce landscape back then, it was largely dominated by, traditional brick and mortar retailers sort of awkwardly trying to get online.
Yeah, I remember that. Clunky websites.
Right. And then you had these massive online marketplaces, the Amazons, the eBays of the world. So if you were a small brand, an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
you basically had two main paths.
which were.
Either sell through wholesalers, which meant giving up a lot of control, a lot of margin,
Mhm.
or you try to list your products on one of those big platforms.
Okay. And what were the big frustrations there? For the entrepreneurs, I mean. The source we looked at really highlights some recurring pain points.
Oh, absolutely. The article points out these key frustrations that were, well, almost universal back then. Like I said, constrained by wholesalers dictating terms, distribution, your margins.
Not ideal.
Not at all. And if you went the marketplace route, you were facing significant fees, obviously, eating into your profit. But maybe even worse,
Uh-huh.
you had severely limited access to your own customer data, crucial data. You were just selling on someone else's turf, playing by their rules, essentially renting space.
So it wasn't just about the difficulty of getting online. It was this feeling of being, trapped, limited in how you could actually build your brand and that direct customer relationship.
Exactly. That lack of control over
Yeah.
your brand presentation, over the customer relationship, and yeah, definitely over profit margins. It was particularly painful for businesses where those things are absolutely everything.
Like what sorts of businesses?
Well, the source mentions categories like fashion, home goods,
Yeah.
wellness, things where it's not just a commodity.
Right, it's about identity, connection.
Precisely. It's about connection and identity.
Mhm.
Sellers just desperately needed a different way to operate. They felt this lack of control keenly.
Okay, so this is where the Shopify story really starts to pivot, isn't it?
Yeah.
They weren't just sitting back and watching these frustrations mount. They were actively digging in, researching.
Mm-hmm. That's the key difference.
So what did their early research efforts, looking internally but also working with third parties, what did they start to uncover?
Well, their research started picking up these signals, pretty strong signals actually, of a fundamental behavioral shift already underway with consumers.
Okay, how so?
People were becoming increasingly comfortable, increasingly willing to buy directly from smaller, often niche online brands they discovered. Brands maybe they had never heard of before offline.
Okay, that is interesting. Why, though? Why were consumers suddenly okay buying, I don't know, a unique watch directly from some small maker they found on Instagram instead of just grabbing one from a big department store's website? What was driving that shift, according to the research?
The research really indicated it was about more than just, say, convenience or even price. Consumers were starting to place a much higher value on things like authenticity, transparency about, how things were made, where they came from, and just the uniqueness offered by these direct brands. It was a move away from the sort of mass market default.
They wanted to feel more connected to the product,
Yeah,
to the brand's story.
exactly. A connection to the origin, the values of the brand. That seemed to be becoming really important.
And I guess the technology wasn't just enabling the selling part, but also fostering that connection itself.
Oh, absolutely. The research clearly saw how the explosion of social media,
Right.
the rise of what we now call influencer marketing, those early days, and just the rapid advancements in mobile commerce, all of this was making it not just possible, but actually relatively easy for smaller brands to reach a global audience.
Without needing the old infrastructure.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You didn't need the expensive distributors anymore or the physical storefronts in every city. Your storefront could literally be your Instagram feed. Your customer service could happen on Twitter. The barriers were falling.
So if we pull those threads together,
Yeah.
you've got frustrated sellers desperate for control.
Yep.
You've got consumers actively shifting their buying habits towards authenticity and direct connection. And then you have this new technology making direct reach feasible, it sounds like. Well, a perfect storm.
That's exactly how the research framed it. That confluence of factors created this massive, largely untapped opportunity.
And that became Shopify's guiding principle.
It really did. It became their North Star, you could say, for their whole strategy.
Yeah.
Build a platform specifically designed to serve these independent direct-to-consumer brands, help them bypass all those old constraints and connect straight with their customers.
Okay, so they had this really clear picture of the market need. How did they actually translate those insights into the platform itself? Because it wasn't just another generic e-commerce tool, was it?
No, definitely not. That's the point. They used that specific market feedback, those pain points, those desires, to build an infrastructure that was truly tailored for these DTC businesses. The goal wasn't just selling online, it was enabling brand independence, end to end.
And the source points out a critical first step they took based on this feedback,
Yeah.
making store creation incredibly simple.
Yeah.
Why was just removing that technical hurdle so important for this specific market?
Well, their research showed this huge pool of potential entrepreneurs, people with amazing product ideas, maybe they were skilled artisans or designers, but they were completely intimidated by the technical side. Building a professional-looking online store, the coding, the design, the web development, that was identified as a massive barrier. It stopped people cold.
And Shopify basically said, we'll handle that.
Pretty much. They responded directly by creating those really easy-to-use templates, the intuitive drag-and-drop editors we sort of take for granted now, and a really robust system for app integrations. It meant you, the entrepreneur, could create a professional online presence that looked great, functioned smoothly, without needing to hire expensive developers or learn complex code yourself. It democratized the storefront.
Okay, but as any DTC founder knows, a beautiful storefront is only half the battle, maybe less. The back-end stuff, the logistics, that's just as challenging, if not more so.
Oh, absolutely. And the research plus the continuous feedback they were getting from their early merchants really highlighted that. Direct sellers needed robust systems, not just for showing off products, but for everything that happens after someone clicks buy, taking payments securely, managing shipping efficiently, handling inventory, staying in touch with customers. They needed control over these core operations too. It couldn't just be a pretty facade.
So based on that need, what kind of back-end solutions did Shopify focus on building out?
They started introducing a whole suite of services and integrations specifically aimed at streamlining those operations and, crucially, removing dependencies on third parties wherever possible.
Like what?
Well, things like Shopify payments, which made taking money online seamless. Shopify shipping, to help manage logistics. Even things like Shopify Capital, offering funding based on store performance. These were all designed to give merchants more direct control and reduce the friction, the hassle, involved in running a direct business day to day.
And the platform also grew beyond just the tools Shopify built themselves, right? The article mentions the importance of the ecosystem.
Oh, that was absolutely vital. And again, a direct response to the incredibly diverse needs they saw in the DTC market. One size doesn't fit all.
So they opened it up.
Yeah, they built this extensive partner ecosystem. They allowed third-party developers to create and offer specialized apps and tools right within Shopify for everything from, dropshipping integrations to sophisticated email marketing, complex inventory management across multiple locations, connecting with niche social platforms.
So you could customize your setup.
Exactly. This modular approach meant DTC brands could tailor their operations precisely to their needs and scale flexibly as they grew, without being locked into some rigid monolithic system or facing the crazy fee structures that were often a pain point in the old marketplace model. It provided flexibility.
Now, you mentioned continuous feedback earlier. This wasn't just a one-time research project at the beginning, was it? This feedback loop kept going.
Right, and this brings up such an important point for any platform business, really. How do you stay relevant? How do you keep being useful as the market inevitably keeps changing? Shopify didn't just rest on their laurels with those initial insights.
What did they do?
They used the real-time data that was constantly flowing from their rapidly growing base of merchants, millions of them eventually, to continuously refine the platform and build out new features. It was a living research lab.
Wow. With that many businesses running on your platform, the insights from that data must have been incredible. What kind of things were they learning from that constant stream?
Well, the source talks about them getting really granular insights, understanding exactly which products were trending across different categories, identifying peak sales times for various industries, analyzing the specific customer journeys. How people actually discovered a product, how they navigated the site, what led to a conversion.
So not just abstract market trends, but actual business behavior.
Exactly. This wasn't theoretical stuff. It was hard data from actual businesses succeeding or maybe struggling right there on their platform.
Right.
What worked, what didn't.
And how did those data insights then directly influence what they built next? How did it shape the platform's evolution?
It directly guided their product development roadmap and their strategic investments. For instance, seeing clear patterns in seasonal sales across thousands of merchants allowed them to build and offer things like forecasting tools and inventory recommendations right within the platform dashboard.
Helping their users run smarter businesses.
Precisely, helping their users plan better. Similarly, tracking which marketing channels were actually driving sales helped them prioritize which integrations to build next, like better tools for Facebook ads or Google Shopping. The data showed them where to focus.
I definitely remember a time when shopping on your phone felt, well, pretty clunky. The data must have screamed mobile at them pretty early on for these direct brands, right?
Oh, absolutely screamed it. Their own internal research, combined with that real-time platform data, clearly showed a massive and rapidly increasing share of e-commerce traffic, especially for these DTC brands often discovered on social media, was coming from mobile devices.
Couldn't ignore that signal.
No way! That was a super clear signal they had to act on fast.
And so how did they respond specifically to that mobile shift?
They really doubled down on mobile optimization. They made sure storefronts looked great and worked flawlessly on smaller screens. They created super seamless, mobile-friendly checkout flows to reduce friction. And they even launched the Shopify mobile app so merchants could literally manage their entire business from their pocket.
And it went beyond just the phone screen too, right? This idea of omni-channel.
Yes, that was another big trend the data highlighted. They saw growing demand for these omni-channel experiences. People wanted to discover on Instagram, maybe browse on Pinterest, buy through TikTok Shop, or even interact at a pop-up event.
And have it all feel connected.
Exactly. Customers expected a seamless journey, and merchants needed the tools to deliver it.
So Shopify built integrations to enable that.
Precisely. They integrated their tools deeply with the major social commerce platforms as they emerged, and they developed really robust point-of-sale or POS systems for handling those in-person transactions smoothly. The goal was always a unified experience for both the merchant and the customer, no matter where the interaction happened. These ongoing developments, constantly fueled by real-time data, were key to them consistently staying, maybe even getting slightly ahead of, evolving consumer behaviors and merchant needs.
Okay, stepping back a bit from the individual features and data points.
Yeah.
If you had to name the single biggest impact of this whole research-driven, DTC-focused strategy, what would it be?
I think fundamentally the most significant outcome was that it truly democratized e-commerce. That sounds like a big claim, but by systematically identifying and removing those technical and financial barriers we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
Shopify genuinely empowered a whole generation of entrepreneurs, creators, small business owners, people who maybe wouldn't have had a shop before to bypass the old gatekeepers and build their own independent brands that could compete on a global scale.
That connection back to the listener is so important here, isn't it? It potentially empowered you, listening right now, to start that business idea or finally grow that side hustle into something real.
Absolutely, it did. Providing not just the scalable platform, but also wrapping it with access to education, technical support, and importantly, a community of fellow entrepreneurs. It created this fertile ground for an incredible explosion of innovation in branding, in product development, in customer experience, all within that DTC space.
And it wasn't just focused on, say, North America or Europe either. This empowerment had a global reach.
Correct. That was another strategic piece. Shopify made significant investments in localization efforts early on, things like offering multilingual support for the platform, enabling local payment methods in different countries. These were crucial for fueling DTC growth in rapidly emerging e-commerce markets like India, Brazil, Southeast Asia. It expanded the playing field globally for these independent brands.
It really did evolve into something much more than just software you log into. It became a whole ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. It transformed into a complete ecosystem designed specifically to nurture brand independence. And you see that reflected in their later moves too. The source points to examples like their acquisition of the logistics company Deliver, aiming to simplify fulfillment, and the launch of features like Shopify markets, which are specifically designed to make cross-border selling easier. Almost every major strategic move seems rooted back in that deep, ongoing understanding of what independent, direct-to-consumer sellers really need to succeed and scale, especially globally.
And you definitely see the tangible proof of that concept in the massive success stories that were built on the platform.
Oh, absolutely. You look at the incredible rise of huge global brands like Allbirds in footwear, Gymshark in fitness apparel, Kylie Cosmetics in beauty. These are multi-million, even billion-dollar businesses that either started from scratch or scaled dramatically using Shopify.
It shows the platform could handle that level of ambition.
It really does. It highlights the platform's ability to support businesses from tiny startup phase right through to massive global scale. It's powerful proof that anticipating market trends isn't just some theoretical exercise. Real success comes from building adaptable, robust systems that genuinely evolve alongside your users and the market they operate in.
It's pretty incredible when you think about how those initial, maybe subtle insights about frustrated sellers and shifting consumer desires led to, well, all of this. And just as a really striking fact from the source material, to put a number on it, in 2021 alone, businesses using Shopify generated over 444 billion US dollars in global economic activity.
Wow.
That number is just a direct reflection, isn't it, of the sheer scale of the opportunity they identified so early on and the effectiveness of the infrastructure they built to capture and support it.
It really underscores the profound economic impact that can come from building a platform that truly empowers independent commerce by getting ahead of market needs, by really listening.
So boiling it all down, the core takeaway from this deep dive seems crystal clear. Shopify's journey is just this powerful masterclass in how deeply understanding your potential customers, understanding the broader market landscape through dedicated ongoing research allows you to not just ride a wave of change, but actually help create it. It's about building exactly what was needed, sometimes even before everyone else fully recognized that the need existed on such a scale.
Yeah, and it highlights that critical value of looking beyond the obvious surface trends, doesn't it? Those seemingly small frustrations people felt with traditional retail, those subtle shifts in how consumers wanted to connect with brands, those were the crucial clues. They unlocked this entire massive movement.
Okay, so final thought then. Given how absolutely crucial that real-time data flowing directly from millions of users was for Shopify's continuous evolution, for constantly staying ahead of the curve, what does that suggest about the ongoing, maybe even increasing need for businesses today, whether you're a tiny startup or a huge corporation, to not just passively collect data, but to actively, constantly keep your finger on the pulse of changing behaviors, changing technologies, changing expectations? What does that tell us about staying relevant now?